You're listening to Overwatch Contenders Daily, your path to daily news, scores, and insights into the Overwatch League stars of tomorrow. Here's your host, LemonKiwi.
Fans, hope you're having a wonderful Monday, because you know what that means. It's Overwatch Contenders Daily time. My name is LemonKiwi. I will be your host for now, here, and forever. And today's guest is AVRL, Overwatch Contenders Caster and Analyst for Pacific and Australian region, but you probably recognize him from another episode, or maybe you've seen him on stream. But here to drop some knowledge bombs today, he will be introducing the 4 new teams coming into Contenders Season 2 for the Pacific region. So lots of new faces, and also what happened to Detonator Korea, #1 Korean team in the Pacific region, and also how will the veteran teams of blank and others go up against the new teams coming into Contenders. So before we get into my interview with AVRL, let's go over some Contenders news. So first off, Toronto esports coach Renan Thera announced this past week that he has left the team and is looking for new opportunities. So maybe getting picked up for Overwatch League, maybe trying to pick up a new team for Contenders. Kind of sad to see him leave Toronto. He was doing such a good job, but we wish Ronald tons of luck and success. But number 2 in the news, Overwatch Pit Season 3, the tournament is underway, and in case you forgot what that is, it's an NA and EU tournament separately that are having Contenders and Open Division teams come up and compete for lots of money. So that tournament is underway, and you guys should go cheer on your favorite Contenders teams at twitch.tv/OverwatchPit, and you can also check out their schedule at overwatchpit.com. So while we're waiting for trials and Contenders to start up, might as well see what the competition is heating up over there. But that's it for the news. Let's get into my interview with AVRL about the Pacific region Contenders Season 2 teams coming up. So I'm here with Kevin, or you know him as AVRL, the Contenders Caster and Analyst for the Pacific and Australian region. But how's it going, Kevin?
Hey, very good. How's it going?
Doing great, doing great. It's hot, and it's actually morning where you are. I think there's like a 17-hour difference between us, but we'll get right into the juicy part of this interview. So from the 8 teams from the Pacific region that battled in trials, only 4 made it through to Contenders Season 2, and that consists of We Love Gaming Korea, Incipience, Cyclops, Athlete Gaming, and Gamecoach Academy. But let's start with the teams that didn't make it through, which includes Yoshimoto Encounter. I think they dropped out actually, and then Lynx Thailand, formerly known as Bazaar, Chaos Theory, and One Shine. So did these results surprise you of who made it through and who did not make it through?
Well, in some ways, yeah, because if you look at who made it through, it's all new teams, right? All the old teams from last season of Contenders have actually all dropped out, so not a single returning team is... Well, you're not going to see a single returning team is basically what I'm trying to say here, because it's all brand new teams. It's kind of exciting in some ways as well, because you get to see some new talent. You wouldn't want it to be too stale and just have the same teams every single time either. So it's pretty interesting. A little bit surprising that a couple of the old ones didn't make it back. A couple of ones like Chaos Theory, I think, were one of the stronger trials teams getting into trials. You also had Lynx TH, who formerly Bazaar, like they probably had a good shot as well, but I think One Shine were reasonably weaker, so maybe them not making it through wasn't a big surprise. Yoshimoto didn't or wasn't able to field the team, so they unfortunately had to drop out, right? So there's only 7 teams in trials. Otherwise, maybe you could have expected Yoshimoto to have a good shot at making it through as well, but the 4 new teams that did end up getting through were pretty strong anyway, so no love lost there. I'm sure we're still going to have a very, very good season.
Hey, well, with new teams means a very exciting Season 2 coming up for you guys. And now we get to know the new teams that, like you said, are coming into Pacific Contenders. So what's the story, or what do you know about the 4 teams coming in, and what are your expectations on how they'll fare against the other teams?
There's a couple of teams in here. One team in particular that I'm quite excited about, and that's Cyclops Athlete Gaming. I'll go a little bit more into detail about them hopefully a bit later, but this is a team from Japan that is, in my opinion, is probably the strongest team in Japan currently, and also maybe historically within the past, definitely for this entire year anyway, I want to say, even in the later parts of 2017. But that team was in trials for last season to get into Contenders Season 1, but they had to drop out due to they had scheduling conflicts that they cited, so they couldn't quite make it into that season. So they came third in trials in Season 1, didn't quite get to make it all the way to Contenders, and then they're finally back, so we get to see them. They should have been, or they are in fact a team that are good enough to be in Contenders, and so, you know, it's great to see them finally there. Then you also have Incipience, who are these kind of, they're a team that also played in, they didn't play in trials last season, I'm pretty sure. They did play in open division. They didn't quite make it through open division. Back then they were called Nameless, so they didn't have the ability to make it that far, but they've kind of retooled their roster a little bit. They're coming through as the new Singaporean team that are kind of replacing Chaos Theory in a way, because Chaos Theory couldn't make it through. Chaos Theory actually had a slight roster issue where one of their leading players, GNX, wasn't available, so they had Azalea from Xavier Young come in. I actually think Azalea might even no longer be on Xavier Young, but that didn't work out, unfortunately, quite well for Old Chaos Theory, so they didn't quite make it through. Instead, we have this other Singaporean team now, Incipience, who are looking very, very good. They've also got a Thai player on there as well, so a little bit of a mixed roster, but they're looking really good because they actually came third in trials this time around, way above some of the other teams. So that is going to be, third in open division. And if we look at the trials really quickly as well, they came second in trials. So actually they came in one above Cyclops Athlete Gaming. So that's going to be quite exciting. We Love Gaming Korea and Gamecoach as well, 2 Korean teams coming in. So we're getting more Korean teams into the region now, and both of these teams seem reasonably good. We Love Gaming Korea obviously being the standout one, coming first in trials, coming first in open division as well. Maybe too soon to say if they're reasonably a favorite to win the season, but they are looking very, very good. And We Love Gaming Korea is actually I believe the organization is based in Europe from what I've been told, and We Love Gaming Korea is like the Korean contingent of that organization, so that's going to be an interesting thing as well. And these guys are kind of an amateur team, so they don't have a lot of professional experience, but they got a lot of great skill on the team from individual members, so that's going to be interesting. Gamecoach Academy is actually they're called Gamecoach Academy because it's actually like a teaching, coaching thing in Korea. Like it's like a school that you can go to learn gaming or to learn.
Yeah, I saw
esports.
that. That's so cool.
So yeah, I did a quick Google of them, and if you go to their website, gamecoachcampkorea.com, it's like an actual place you go to get training for pro gaming, really. So this is their team comprised of their students, actually. So these all, as far as I know, all the members on this team are actually their students who are going to be playing in Contenders. So that's actually a really, really cool thing for this company / organization. And to speak on their ability as well, I think they came fourth in trials, but I think they got some decent room for growth. 2 of the Gamecoach Academy coaches, I'm not too sure for this specific team, but for the company Gamecoach, are actually 2 coaches in Element Mystic. So you got Rush and Levi, who are both coaches in Element Mystic. They're also Gamecoach Academy coaches for that company, so that's going to be interesting. Maybe there's some overlap there. Maybe they also help out this team. So if that's the case, Element Mystic is a great team. You could probably hope to see some of that flow over.
Well, with the entry of these new teams coming in, there's a mix of veteran, mix of new, but based on the history of Pacific Contenders, Korea has now won 2 seasons of Pacific Contenders, including OPC Season 2, and now with We Love Gaming are coming in. They had like a 23-1 map count in trials, so they're looking like a strong contender to maybe even take it all. But then you have, speaking of now Japan's representation, Yoshimoto dropped out, and CAG, or Cyclops Athlete Gaming, is now the best representative team for Japan. So do you think Korea or WLG will continue their reign in the Pacific region, or do you think CAG will turn the tables for Japan?
Could be both. Could be a little bit of A, a little bit of B there, because you have now 4 Korean teams in total. 1/3 of Contenders Pacific is now fully Korean. That means there's a good chance that one of the Korean teams is going to come out on top. WLG being kind of the leaders there, because obviously their record has been so good so far. It's kind of looking like Detonator Korea all over again. But the thing about this particular team, WLG, is they don't quite have the history that Detonator come in. And the thing you'll actually notice about Korean teams in Contenders Pacific, especially going to this season, if you include the OPC seasons of 2017, you'll actually notice that the quality of Korean skill level in this region is starting to dip. I think that's also due to the quality of teams. So in Ardent for OPC Season 2, they were clearly a Tier 1 team. This was just like an Apex level team that just rocked up to the Pacific region. They absolutely creamed everybody. 2 of those players from Ardent are now in Overwatch League. I think that tells you enough about their team. Then you go into Contenders Season 1 for this year that we just finished up. You have Detonator Korea, who, while they're not, Tier 1 level, they had their team had been together for a very long time, so they had a long time to work together as a squad, as a unit, and get that synergy down pat. They just looked like a very, very well-oiled machine by the time they got to Contenders, and I think that showed. I think that was like quite obvious. But now going into this season, WLG is a relatively new team. They're a relatively kind of amateur team as well. That's not to understate their ability level. I think individually their players are definitely looking pretty good, but they don't quite have the legacy or the experience or the time spent together that the other Korean teams that have won in this region have had. So I don't know if they will continue that level of dominance. Certainly they'll be one of the better teams, but can they win? That's another question. Going over to the Japan side now, this is where it gets really good, because Japan has had a pretty rough time in the Pacific. Go back to, any of the old Japanese teams, and they've all had some pretty lackluster results. This is like the Japanese dream right now, because Cyclops Athlete Gaming is, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree, probably just the best Japanese team we're going to be seeing right now. Like, this is finally we get to see Japan, I want to say, pretty much at their best. And you've got the other thing about this team is when you look at their roster, they've actually got a lot of old members from some of those old Japanese squads kind of put together. You've actually got 3 old Detonator Gold members, so the original Detonator squad, the Japanese team, not the Korean team in OPC Season 1. You have Sabagod, you have Amakin, and you have Samurai D as well, that are all 3 of them on this CAG team. Their coach, XQQ, was also on Sun Sister in the same season as well, the other Japanese team. On top of that, you've got World Cup members, you've got Tayo, you've got Yoz, you've got Claire. So, I mean, you've kind of got the best members across the board from multiple different Japanese teams, past and present, including World Cup members. And putting that all together, this is a pretty decent team. Can they win the season? That's another question as well, because they did come under both Incipience and also We Love Gaming. So I think if We Love Gaming isn't necessarily a favorite, CAG won't be a favorite to win the season, but are they going to be, are they going to have as poor results as past Japanese teams? Absolutely no. I think this is going to be a much stronger Japanese team. And also XQQ is part of the committee for Japan's World Cup squad. So likely, I think you're going to see a decent number of World Cup members being pulled out from this team in particular. So definitely be expecting, because it's already got 3 ex-World Cup members, those guys could be playing again this year. So if you want to get a preview of what Japan's World Cup team could look like, I think this team is the best example of that.
Well, I'm just excited that Japan will have a better representation on the stage with this team, and Yoshimoto not having even the greatest results and then dropping out. But now what's surprising to me is last season, Detonator Korea, the best Korean team that won the whole thing, sold their spot and they disbanded. They sold their spot to EXL Gaming. I think I mentioned that in the news in another video. So you got the info, you got the intel. Why did Detonator leave, and what happened to the roster?
I think you have on one hand, winning Contenders is always a pretty decent boost in publicity. I think when you look at it, like the goal of every player who wants to be a pro is to make it to the Overwatch League. So when you win, it's for some people it's like, okay, I've just won something. Maybe I can get onto a better team or a better region or something like that. On the other hand, you have it from the organizational perspective where Detonator have been an org in the Pacific region for about a year now, maybe even over a year. They started in OPC Season 1 with Detonator Gold, which is where a bunch of the CAG members are at currently. And you have to understand, for a team, for an organization to be in Overwatch for this amount of time, especially in what I think is probably one of the more difficult regions to financially invest in terms of, you know, if you consider that it's been LAN play all the way up until now. I think Detonator as an organization, they actually at one point even had 3 teams running at the same time. So you go back to OPC Season 1, they had Detonator Gold, Detonator Black, and then they had Detonator Korea starting up about the same time as well, different Detonator Korea squad back then, but they had about roughly 3 teams at the same time. So this organization's invested a lot. They've put a lot of time into this, and I think they finally won, and I don't know, maybe it's time for them to close the door on Overwatch for now. Their owner said right now they're good with Overwatch in the sense that they've won. They're happy that they won, but you know, for now and until maybe something improves and from their standpoint, maybe the level of support for them improves or something like that, maybe they'll return one day. But for now, they're happy to just sit out of Overwatch and just look at it from the outside and hopefully find another opportunity. Their members, though, have decided to already move on. So you have Apache going to Metabellum. Their coach, Sungwoo, as well, I believe, also went to Metabellum or Meta-Athena, one of the two. Sleepy Bear went to O2 Ardian. So a couple of the members already moving on. Daheem has retired. He actually stated he had stress and like wrist injuries, so he's out of the game. Modern, I believe, is looking for an NA team. And if you are in NA or even EU team, should look at this guy because he's a really good tank player and he speaks really good English. So
that's a plus.
That's sometimes rare for a Korean player. So, you know, it's a good pickup. Look him up. And yeah, that's Detonator Korea. And EXL coming in is a sort of another older team from this year as well. We saw EXL in Season 1 of Trials, where I believe they came second. EXL Razor, they were called, so they're going to come back in now in Detonator's spot. I've been told that they're going to be going for a full Korean roster. They haven't finalized the roster just yet, so nothing to reveal in that regard. So they're still getting that roster together, but it should be a pretty good roster. They're definitely not skimping out. They're looking to get some good players in there. So yeah, that rounds out all the Korean teams, all 4 of them.
Well, I mean, I guess that opens up for a new champion, Korean or not, to come in, and kind of surprising that, you know, you win contenders and then you drop out, and even the members are now dispersed, not sticking together as a team. But hey, we're all excited to see what kind of team EXL Gaming are going to field. But with these new teams coming in, how will veteran teams such as Blank, HKA, Mega, how will the new teams fare against the veteran teams, and how do you see the season shaping out with the new teams coming in?
This is going to be probably, I'll speak to Blank first, and I think this is going to be the most important season for Blank because this time, truly, I think they are the favorites. Last season, they were somewhat the favorites. They were kind of tied equal with Detonator Korea for the longest time. Like, okay, which team's going to win out of these two? Who's going to be the better team? Detonator's advantage back in last season was the fact that they had been together longer as a team, whereas Blank had some old new members, but they also brought in 3 new members, so they had to kind of work around that again. They also lost their 2 support players who were kind of the backbone of the team in a sense, in terms of the leadership pillars. They had Gumbo and RQT go, and Gumbo ended up going to LA Valiant as their assistant coach. I mean, they lost some real quality leadership structure in that team, so they had to kind of rebuild that. Now coming into Season 2, I'm pretty sure Blank, I'm like 90% sure Blank are coming with the exact same roster. So, or at least you should see at minimum 6 returning members, if not 7, maybe even 8, I don't know, but you're going to see the same core return. And that's really important because now they get to kind of be like the Detonator Korea, because Detonator Korea had been together for a team for a long time now. Blank have a full season together with their current roster. They get to come into season 2 having that. WLG don't necessarily have that. EXL definitely are not going to have that. They're going to be a new team. Cyclops Athlete Gaming already came, they didn't come first or anything in trials. They're a good team, but they're not like really spearheading anything. They're going to be good, but they're not going to be really scary yet. So I think Blank, if everything stays the same, then they should be the favorites to take out the season. Hong Kong Attitude and Mega as well are going to be really good teams regardless. They've always had good results across the board, especially last season. Pretty clear top 4 teams, both of them. Should be expected to meet that standard again, unless they fall to someone like WLG Korea, which is definitely possible. I'm pretty sure Mega is one of the rumored teams that have roster changes, so it'll be interesting to see how they function with that as well. Hong Kong Attitude, not too sure about what they're going to do with their roster, but they don't seem to make too many changes too often, so very likely to see them come back with the same team again. The other teams I'm a little bit more worried about, so those are three of the teams from last season, but you also got teams like Abang and Machi, who kind of were floating around that middle of the pack. Teams like Xavier, Young as well, kind of floating in that middle section, and they're the teams that are really at risk of being relegated back into trials or into trials with the new teams coming in. So it's really going to be dependent on the strength of these new teams, and they're starting to look good, but we'll have to see how they go.
Well, I feel like you're still confident in the new teams coming in, although there's so much experience in terms of the rosters that are already in contenders. But now that you take out the #1 team of Detonator, you throw in a new powerhouse Korean team. Now you got Japanese stepping up to the plate. I think this is going to be such an exciting Pacific Season 2 coming up.
Yeah, I'll certainly be looking forward to that, and it's going to be difficult to call again. Like I said, though, I'm expecting Blank to step up, but they haven't won yet, so they got to break their own curse to do that, right? As much as I want to say Blank should be winning this, they haven't won anything, so this has to be their first victory. On top of that, we've also got if the reports are true, and I don't know if they are yet. This is just kind of hearsay at the moment. But if the reports are true, it's all going to be online up until the top 4. So that
changes a lot.
That definitely changes things. So that's going to make it. I think that if that's true and Blank remain in Australia to play in Pacific Contenders, that's probably going to be the biggest thing working against them, because they're going to have the most well-rounded team with the most experience, but they're going to have the worst pings, so that is going to work against them more so than any other team. So that being the case, maybe we will see a pretty close season. Blank's goal, if that is true, then we'll have to just be to make the top 4. I think once Blank know if they know they can make the top 4, then they're fine. They could probably take the season. But if they don't make the top 4 because of ping issues or whatever, that's when they're in trouble. So.
Or maybe they'll get a house closer to everybody else out of Australia. But
maybe they just go back to Taiwan. Maybe they just live in Taiwan for another season. That's another possibility. They could totally do that.
But it's like you're trading out the ping issue, or like you're trading out how expensive it is to live close to the land center for now ping issues that you might experience being in your own country or area, wherever you might be. But I think go for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is kind of the difficulty of the region, right? It's kind of why you had land the entire time. People are like, why is it all land? First of all, because land's better, but also because of the fact that, the Pacific extends from as far as Korea all the way down to Australia. So how do you logistically do that? The only way it's fair is if you play on land. So that's why it's been land for the longest of times. But also at the same time, the tier 2 scene, there's only really, in terms of, in perspective to Overwatch League, the tier 2 scene's only kind of just starting with the path to pro. Like, this is the first proper season year of Contenders, so it needs some time to really be in a place where it's self-sustainable enough that teams can financially just be okay. Like, because right now it's still in a place where it's kind of, it's kind of in the early phases. Teams are not quite able to really, get their feet in, especially for this region where it can get expensive. So maybe in future seasons, Contenders gets to the stage where, you know, teams like Detonator can come back. So that's what we hope.
Well, now it's online, I hope that now they can afford to come back eventually, but they've already stepped out for this season, so hopefully it's going to be exciting to see who EXL Gaming are going to be bringing on and how the new teams will fare coming into Contenders, and how the veteran teams such as Blank, are they going to be breaking that second place curse? But thank you so much, Kevin, for coming on for this interview.
Thank you.
All right, this will conclude Overwatch Contenders Daily, guys. Hope you have a wonderful Monday, and we will see you on Wednesday for the next one. Bye!